Hello, I'm Carrie from Carrie Double Therapy, and I wanted to talk today about worry. Are you a worrier? Are you kept up at night going over and over problems and not finding a solution? Do you have a feeling of dread and not in your stomach? And does it feel impossible to switch off those thoughts? Well, you might be involved in overthinking and worry. So, why do we worry so much? One of the greatest myths I hear is that worry is helpful to us, that it's helping me in some way, that you are dealing with the things by being prepared for what's going to go wrong or what might happen in the future. It makes me feel like I'm in control. But really, does it make you prepare? So when you're thinking about the worst outcome and the most likely outcome, that actually happens is worry, it's panic, it's fear, and often avoidance. So I try to help people understand that worry is a mental behavior and it's happening in the background, but it can feel very overwhelming at times. So, worry, what is it? It's a mental behavior, as I said, it's a habit of thinking, and it tends to grip us in the fear of the future. When you are in worry mode, you are in fact trying to predict what the future is going to be, but you're seeing the future in a very negative way. You're predicting bad things happening often because you believe that then you can be prepared for it and every eventuality. So over and over, your mind ticks over these scenarios of what could happen, what could go wrong, and then what might happen, and then what would go wrong after that. So it builds and builds on itself. And from one report that goes in late might then end up with you losing your job, losing the place you're living in, losing all your friends. That escalation, when we sort of sit back and maybe write it all out, we would say, well, that's ridiculous. But when it's in our own head, we tend to sort of go with it and almost start to believe that that's likely to happen. And what's happening when we are worried in this negative way, we are actually experiencing an awful lot of anxiety. And the anxiety feelings tend to lend themselves then for having more anxious thoughts. The thoughts are then linked with the feelings, and we become really caught up in a vicious cycle. So, what are the signs you're in a worry cycle? The main impact is the anxiety and fear. And this is felt in the body as agitation, as restlessness in the mind. And there can also be sleeplessness, irritability, and a difficulty concentrating on what's going around you because you're so fixed on the images and thoughts in your head and of what might happen. What you will also notice is that you will have many what if thoughts, and that's key. Really noticing you have those what if thoughts. And then you might stop doing the things you usually do and believe that the bad future scenario is more likely to happen, and that leads to a lower motivation. And when I see people, they often have this excessive worry, and the presentation or how they come to me, it might be not only the anxiety, but really feeling quite demoralized and depressed too, because they've stopped doing the things that they normally enjoy and feel completely overwhelmed with these negative ideas. So, firstly, to address this, it's understanding there's a difference between worry and problem solving. So, worry is being stuck in creating future scenarios and trying to work out how to solve them. And this can feel like you're doing something useful and to prevent the bad thing from happening. But is this truly the case? Because remember, it's a future scenario, it hasn't actually happened yet. So you're trying to map out and plan for things that aren't real at this moment. They're just thoughts and ideas of what might become real. So the big difference here is that worry is based on something that hasn't happened yet. When you're worrying, there can be no solution that you can action effectively because it hasn't happened yet. And instead, if we think about problem solving, is when you have a clear problem it's in your life already, or you know that that is a problem that you're going to face for sure. And you start making steps and plans to resolve it. You go from thinking about actions to taking these actions. So what I'd like you to do is firstly take stock and understand what's currently going on for you when you're noticing this anxiety. So ask yourself, is this problem happening now? Is it currently in my life? Therefore, it's time to problem solve. Or am I building up hypothetical issues of something that may or may not happen? So this is where worry steps in. So instead of trying to resolve a problem, you might then be hypothetically worrying about how things may or may not go in the future. And this prevents you from taking action. So instead, let this go and adopt the wait and see approach and take action on the things you can take action on. If you see yourself as a worrier, is there a cure for this? Well, we all going to be anxious. I mean, anxiety is an emotional state that we all experience, and we all are going to be engaged in worry in some way or not. But when it becomes really excessive and we can't seem to stop or resist going with the worry. And people often come to me and say, I've always been a worrier. There is a cure, and it is about learning to identify the worry within yourself, that you see it as the habit, the pattern, the behavior that is increasing and amplifying the anxiety and creating a difficulty with managing the uncertainty potentially. So you can choose to have a different response to the things you're uncertain of or not in control of. So let's check out a few things, a few ideas to get you going to start off making changes. So how to let go of worry. Here are some tips that I'd like you to try. So number one, be aware. First step is to notice you're worrying. Now that seems obvious, but it's sometimes difficult because it's an automatic pattern. So it's almost subconsciously done, a bit like driving a car, that we're not aware of how we're using the pedals, but we know we're doing it, but we don't, if you know what I mean. So the first step is to notice you're worrying. And the key way to do this is understand your triggers and also how you feel the anxiety within you. So when you're worrying, it could be on autopilot. So you need to become aware of the physical sensations first and be aware of what might be the factors that lead you into that worry. And that's often some elements of uncertainty that you are aware of that create that pattern to emerge. So be aware of the physical sensations first, the anxiety state. Then when you notice that stress response, number two is slow down. So you need to help your body because your body is automatically responding to the ideas you're presenting it with that are fear-based, threat-based. So your body goes into fight and flight. So you need to respond with an alternative message for your mind, and that is slowing your breath down. So take a look at my YouTube link for diaphragm breathing to slow your breath down. Look at some of my relaxation YouTubes for how you might go about just slowing everything down, and pause and then ask yourself what's going through your mind right now. So that awareness, so being aware first of you're doing it, slowing your body stress response down, doing the breathing to reconnect in the here and now, and also help yourself to reduce that bodily reaction. And once you're aware and you're asking what's going through your mind, the third step is asking yourself, is this actually happening right now? What's going through my head? Is it real? Is it actually happening? Or is it just one possible outcome? And if there are current issues to deal with, try and take action or book these in and understand the difference between problem solving and worry. And if it is worry, then with that lower stress response that you've managed to engage with, it's refocusing your attention away from your thoughts, away from even your body, and externally get on with what you were doing just before that worry started. So this is just a brief idea about how you can start to manage worry. But of course, get in touch with me, info@carry-double-therapy if you need to know more, if you want to understand more about what's going on and need any help. I'm more than willing to answer any questions. Okay, take care.